So, Daniel, you grew up surrounded by audio equipment. What's your first striking memory related to audio notes?
Related to audio notes. Wow. I suppose probably one of my earliest memories is actually I had a little I was probably only, I don't know, 5 years old. I had a little spaceship, and he would fire missiles, and I have this very clear memory of shooting one of the missiles and it disappearing inside an amplifier, and then didn't say anything. And then years later, hearing the story that my dad would tell the story that he took the lid off something, there was this melted thing inside. And then I connected the memory, I realized what it was all those years later.
That reminds me, our youngest, he's 6 now, but by the time he was 3, he used to use the speakers as the mountain for his Jurassic Park.
Oh,
And then all of the dinosaurs seem to find their way inside the speaker.
so it's got a port.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would all go into the speaker and stay there for life.
It's so yeah. I mean, that's it's part of the fun of having audio and kids, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's a bit
it's
risky.
always an interesting mix. But but yeah, but of course I also remember my father always demonstrating equipment. Really, it's a lot of the music that kind of stood out to me. You know, he would be playing really interesting selection to different clients who were coming to the house, to his listening room. So yeah, I heard. It's mostly the music that stuck with me, like Deck and Dance,
Yes.
Queen, even things like Xenakis, these big percussion pieces. And I think some of that informed my own taste in music.
Of course.
Oh, definitely, because we see that in our kids. So
yeah.
he's always listening to mostly all of the genders, but my oldest daughter, she's 15, and she only likes Queen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So she would go to school and the teacher would say, "Oh, choose a song for each one of you will choose a song today." And she would choose Queen and they would say, "Well, you're so old. How do you like this?" And
There's no
our
Lady
youngest
Gaga or-
our youngest, when he was a baby, every baby goes to sleep with like classical music, right? Not ours. AC/DC all the way.
oh yeah, that's great. Well, my dad used to say that you know, before I was born, when I was still in the womb, I used to respond well to Frankie Goes to Hollywood. You know, relax. So you know, it was a good upbringing in that sense.
É engraçado que a audionote tem precisamente essa onda de não passar, ou seja, em eventos onde esteja a audionote, não vamos ouvir apenas aquelas músicas audiófilas,
Yeah,
típicas do mundo audiófilo,
yeah. We don't play
os
the usual.
clássicos jazz, etc. Na audionote há precisamente, mesmo no vosso marketing, a vossa comunicação, não se restringe apenas a essas músicas clássicas da audiofilia.
Yeah, we try and I mean, essentially we play music that we enjoy,
Yes.
and you know, really, while I don't mind some of the classic audiophile tracks,
Yes.
I just feel like there's so much more music to explore there, and I think it's great if, you know, in a demonstration of these shows,
Yes.
people come away with a new
And
discovery.
real people don't listen only to the
Yeah.
audiophile classics.
Precisely, yeah.
The equipment needs to work to what you listen at home, because if you're listening to hear like only classical music, or you'll go home and, well, this doesn't sound the same.
Yes,
Of course it doesn't. It's not the same music.
exactly. And this is, for us, where we, I mean, really the way our equipment's been developed is through comparison by contrast rather than comparison by reference.
Yes.
So comparison by reference is when you have a recording, you say, I know how this sounds. I'm going to use this. And design the equipment to make this sound as good as possible. But the problem with that is, really, we don't know how it sounds. There's no way for us to know, even if you're in the studio, even if you're the one that mixed and mastered it, it's been through so many things by the time it's become a physical format, or even a digital format, that we can't say for sure how it's supposed to sound. So this is where my father's approach was always comparison by contrast. So it's, you take a selection of very different recordings from different eras, different styles, and you listen to all of those side by side. And what that tells you is like, is the system maintaining the uniqueness of each of those recordings? Because it's the uniqueness in recordings, that's the only commonality they should all have. It's that they have something unique about them.
Yes. Is that the magic of audio notes?
I mean, I think it's helped us. It's helped AudioNote develop the kind of equipment that we make. But I think it's part of a number of things where AudioNote's always thought a little bit differently about things. You know, we don't necessarily follow some of the conventions that have developed in audio in general. You know, from the speaker placement to our approach with digital, with CDs, you know, removing the error correction and all the filtering and things like that. We've always, you know, my father's always been guided by his ear, and really, I think it's taken AudioNote to some very interesting places.
Yes,
I was going to say, isn't that the best way? Because isn't music about feeling, right?
Yes.
So when he has equipment at home and he says, "Oh, come and listen to something," and there are times that I say, like, I don't feel anything. And then for me, growing up with music, music has been in my life since I was like a tiny tot. And when I start to move and I can't stop, and when I have like shivers, and that's what music means to me.
Yes.
And I think that needs to show through the equipment as well. So if he was guided by his ear, that's the best way to make something that makes so much of a difference.
That's it exactly. Because I mean, ultimately, you know, it can be as I guess analytical and detailed as you want, but ultimately, you know, music is an emotive art form, and there's also a communal aspect to it, which is very important. You know, there's something very special when you can sit with your family and friends, and you've got good music playing, and it creates a sort of it adds to the memory, you know, of that occasion.
You're going to remember that day that we were all together for whatever.
Yeah.
Remember the music, that song that you played was so good, because it creates the memory is going to be attached to the song.
Yes, that's it. And because I think before the invention of audio and everything like that, music was always about communities. You know, whether it was a folk tradition, you know, people playing music at home with whatever instruments they had, or whether it was a classical concert with
Orchestra,
you know, a big orchestra and lots of, you know,
people attending.
lots of people attending, or even religious music, people coming together for a congregation, or
it's like a social experience, a social thing to go and listen to the music and then talk with each other, communicating how that made you feel. Did you like it? Or all of that. And that makes a difference for me at least in music. It's the feeling, the memories we share when we use it, when we listen to it. A song today may be like the best song ever, and then tomorrow I don't even like it anymore.
Well,
You know?
it's what it can enhance moments in our lives, and I think that's where our memory is very much linked with our emotions, and if it strengthens that, we come away with a very memorable feeling. You can remember you can remember songs that were playing when you met your significant other for the first time, things like that. It's music really becomes part of our story. And for us, I think sometimes when it becomes a little bit, I think for us, we like to maintain that. And I think sometimes there's elements of the audio industry that almost lose sight of that. It becomes a very solitary hobby.
Yes.
Very directional speakers, only one good chair.
The audiophile.
Yeah,
thing.
which, it's a personal. There's personal preference here, and it's not a criticism of anyone that goes that path. But ultimately, I think music is a social thing. There is a shared experience, and I think equipment that will fill a space and create an atmosphere, I see great value in that. Personally.
Yesterday, I was talking to a few friends here, and they attended your room.
Oh yes.
Yes, and they talking about the rooms. It's with those kind of audiophile terms.
Yes.
And then I went to audio notes, and I don't know. It seemed like magic, but they didn't talk about the soundstage or whatever. They talked about magic.
Yes. But this is it. I think that it's sometimes we can get lost in these aspects of things, and really sometimes the language some of the language that's developed in audio, these descriptors, they're a little
Too analytical.
It's too restrictive. You sometimes when you start dissecting things, it loses meaning.
Yes, because it's
It's sliced. Like you want to see every single slice like an X-ray, because this needs to fit here, and this needs to be this stage, and needs to be this thing, and we lose by the end. Why am I doing this?
Yes. Exactly. It's the forest for the tree. You can't see the forest for the trees, as they say.
Yes.
So if Now Do You Know were a band or a musical artist, who would it be and why?
Huh, that's an interesting question. It would have to be someone that walked their own path, I suppose. So, I mean, my immediate temptation is to say someone like Frank Zappa, in that, he was someone who was very eclectic, but also had a very clear vision of what he wanted to create, but also had a sense of humor. So he didn't take himself too seriously at the same time. Yeah, but it's a hard question, I suppose. I'm trying to think of something that's all encompassing there, because we're quite an eclectic team. We all have our specific music tastes. Everyone's quite diverse in their skill sets. Yeah, perhaps I'll stick with Frank Zappa. As
I normally say that our neighbors probably think that I'm like bipolar or something like that, because when I clean, I put very loud music on. And some days is something like Queen or AC/DC. The next day it's Adele. The day after is something more recent like Benson Boone or. And they must think like this lady's not well in the brain because it's always so. And people are like that. Music moves you differently every single day. Some days you want classical, some days you want to move your body, some days you just want to listen to Adele and cry like you had the worst breakup,
Yeah.
just to let it out.
Well, it's that thing of music as it is a mood enhancer in a way. We sometimes we're not always great speaking about how we feel, but you can express it through the music you listen to or play. You know, if you're playing music as well. This is something you interviewed Vincent.
Yes.
One of the things I admire about Vincent. He's the kind of person. He's very much. You know, we say in English, he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And I think you hear that when he plays.
You do.
I've seen him play so many times now. I can. It's always good. It's always good. But he'll play the same piece, but depending on
How he
what
feels.
he's going through in life, how he feels, if he's feeling happy, if he's feeling stressed, it all comes through. And you know, I think it's one of the cathartic sides of music. It's that you can work through. Well, not just cathartic, but it's that enhancement thing again. You know, we do express ourselves through the music we listen to.
True. So, what do you would say that to those who think that analog equipment is a thing of the past?
Well, I mean, I'd just say look at the resurgence of interest that's come about. I mean, there's again, it can come down to a matter of taste, perhaps. I mean, we've always been. I mean, my father was always very committed to analog, which is part of why he started the company. Really, was that he saw the direction the audio industry was going, where it was abandoning a lot of sort of analog technology and embracing, you know, this new generation of transistors and such things. And for my dad's ears, he just felt it didn't. It
wasn't working.
It wasn't recreating the music in a way he thought was faithful. So he decided to learn more about these designs that he admired. He began to buy stocks of valves because at the time people just wanted to get rid of them.
Yes.
You know? So he built up quite a collection of valves. And now, you know, fast forward, 45 years or so, and there's still a great interest in analog, more generally. Even in this world of where streaming is becoming one of the dominant ways of listening to music, there's still most artists are still releasing on physical formats,
Yes.
like particularly vinyl. You know, it now comes with a download. And I think there's something. One of the reassurances people, I think, find in physical media is that you know it's not changed since you got it. When something's in the digital sphere, you know, when it's on the cloud or on a streaming platform, it can be changed. There are artists who they say, well, actually, I don't know if I like this track list. I'm going to eliminate a few songs and I'll replace it with some others. And so the meaning of the album
remasters
and remasters as well, all of it changes. So when you have a record or a CD or a cassette tape,
it's always the same.
That's it. It hasn't changed since you. And I think in a world where we're having to navigate so much information, there's great sort of comfort in that.
Reassurance.
Yeah.
Everything is changing by the minute most of the times, but you have that feeling that when you listen to the song the same way that it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, a day ago, it makes the reflection on how you feel. Like
Yes.
if I'm too overwhelmed, because we tend to be overwhelmed on a day-to-day basis with the world being as it is, sometimes the songs being the same takes you back to a moment in time where everything was a little bit better, and it makes you feel like, okay, it's going to get better. I can start to feel the change inside.
That's it, exactly.
It's almost like we say it in Portuguese from Portugal, uma pescadinha de rabo na boca. It's like a fish that goes around itself and bites its tail, because we talk about music and analog and digital and how it changes and how it, but in the end, it's how it all makes you feel.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. And this is where, as I mentioned before, that cathartic element, that element of just creating a space where I think everyone can attest to how music can help us mentally in many respects. If we feel stressed or troubled, I think music has always been a natural place to work through that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely.
that's what the blues, a lot of the blues was all about. It was about people lived hard lives at that time, and by singing about it, you could kind of work through that in a way.
Going to a different direction, how do you feel working it's a family business, right?
Yes.
How do you feel working in your family business? Does it feel for you? Is it it can be amazing and can be chaotic at the same time. How does it feel for you?
Well, no, that's certainly true. I mean, ultimately, because it's my sister Emily and I, who are step by step taking the reins and with the intention to keep Audino going long into the future. And most of that comes from the fact we're just extremely proud what our parents have built. My mum was there since the beginning as well, so
It's a family thing.
yeah, it's a real family thing. And yeah, it's like any family, you have you have your differences of opinions on things, but ultimately, we get on very well, and I think all of us have the right kind of drive for what we do. We like to just see things done well.
Passion.
That's it. And we're all big music fans, and we socialize outside of work as well, which is of course important. But I share an office with my dad, and I learn a lot from him by doing that.
Very natural then, a very natural transition of being a son to being a colleague per se. Very straight line, no impulsion in there, like.
Well, it's my sister and I feel very protective about what our parents have built, because it's something quite specific, and in this, what tends to happen is that a company like ours would be sold to private equity or something like that, which I understand why that happens, and I wouldn't I wouldn't judge anyone for taking that path. If they've worked hard for many years and then they get a nice they've built a company of value, and then they sell it on when they want to retire. I definitely understand where that comes from, but we feel like what Audino does is so specific, and its philosophy is fairly unique, and we really want to be able to maintain that long into the future. so yeah, that's why I'm here. You know, it's yeah. Overall, you know, we love working together, and my wife as well. You know, she's always a great support with all of this. My wife Cynthia, who's Brazilian, so she any show that she can attend with me, she comes along, and she actually on occasion even runs the room. She always feels a little intimidated doing it, but she always does a great job. And she's also got a great shared love of music.
Very similar. For in the beginning, I was like, he always asked me, "Don't you want to do the interviews with me?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I do. I won't feel comfortable." And then I started to see that like I was able to help him, not because I felt bad for doing it. I wanted to help him because I wanted to make him do whatever he feels it's good for him and whatever he wants to do. So I'm there like, you go, I'm here, I'll help you, I'll do whatever you need. So I'm more involved than I thought I would be at the beginning.
It's you know, it's interesting how life goes, you know. But it's I think it's a wonderful thing, you know, when you can kind of support each other in that way.
Yeah. A fun question, a kind of weird question. If you could take only one audio note system into a deserted island,
Only one audio note system.
once.
I mean, you know, the natural choice would be to jump in at level 5, you know, with the legendary Ongaku or Gaku ones. I mean, we actually make something above that level now, but you know, you could certainly live very happy for the rest of your life, you know, on a desert island with that. But you know, that said, I mean, I've had a level 1 system at home for a long time now, and again, it's still extremely enjoyable. And
we had the Cobra a few months ago.
Oh, you did?
I love it.
We made bread with the Cobra because of the heat.
Oh yeah. Well, I prefer to warm my slippers. But, you know.
I thought it was amazing, and I said, no, I just want one of this because I could never make my yeast, like natural yeast, grow.
Oh, so you really?
No, I was really able.
It's not a joke.
The heat of it would make my natural yeast grow so big, like I never could before, and I never could after it.
We'll have to add that to the manual. You know.
You will be able to do sourdough with this as well.
So yeah, sourdough by the Cobra.
We placed it in the back of the Cobra, and the heat from the valves, and it is a Class A amplifier.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I was very happy with that.
Class A bread from a Class A amplifier. It's, yeah, well, that's a new one on me. I may have to say to some customers, you know, be careful with that one. Just
don't worry.
Yeah.
don't let it overflow.
Yeah.
If a young audiophile came to you wanting to understand the magic of the audio note sound, where should he start?
I mean, really, there's no specific starting place, really. It's people discover what we do at all different levels. But I suppose when you come in at a higher level, it's a little more intimidating when you then learn about the price. And this is actually where the Cobra comes in, because the Cobra, we really did, we developed that in mind for those that are perhaps getting started on that.
It all, the deck.
Exactly, because really it's a fairly complete unit. All you need is a pair of speakers and a source.
Yeah.
And you're kind of ready to go, which in this hobby I think is a fairly inexpensive solution for most people.
Yes.
And it's just you know, it's maybe not the most refined amp that we make, but it's so much fun. I've done a few shows with the Cobra, and it's got an exuberance and you know, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, it is.
You can really play around with it, and it's, you know, it's very diverse, and
Yes.
you can really throw on a variety of music.
Yes, true.
And you still get that. You know, you still get that audio DNA.
Yes.
You know, this really does run through the range from the entry level, you know, level 0, all the way up to the top.
And if thinking about, again, going back to being a family business, if one day, hopefully, you're passing the business to your kids,
Yeah.
what's the one thing that you would say, like, this cannot or this should not be changed?
Probably one of the things which, you know, a lot of people ask us is if we would make a streamer, and really philosophically it conflicts with so much we do. So, you know, that might be one of the natural ones. Although saying that, you know, when people ask me if we'd make a streamer, I usually say we could probably make a very good streamer, but for us, we would also want to develop our own streaming platform and be in full control of
everything,
of how all of that works and integrates together. And also, of course, paying artists fairly as part of that model, I think, is very important, which I know is kind of a hot topic, particularly with, let's say, the most popular streaming service.
And for those who never heard an audio note system, what are they missing?
What are they missing? I mean, it depends on what their system is, I suppose, but I would suppose that I think there's an emotional place that we try and reach through our equipment that I don't know if that's always captured
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, it depends a little bit on what their system would be,
yeah.
but you know, I would hope that's what AudioNote has to offer. That we've always maintained that that essence of music, of keeping it, you know, while being able to hear all the different elements within a recording. You know, I hope that what we make honors the recorded history of mankind.
Mm-hmm. And if you could describe the perfect sound in a sentence, what would it be?
The perfect sound. I mean,
is there a perfect sound, like all over perfect sound?
I mean, I think again, it comes down to a personal thing. It's what is someone trying to achieve with
I
with their
completely agree.
system.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I mean, an interesting thing about our range, I think, is that because we have quite a wide range of products, it really does accommodate. You can tailor it, so to speak, depending on what you're trying to achieve. However, if someone is, I don't know, they live in a huge space like this, an 8-inch driver and you know an 8-watt amplifier is probably not going to be what you need. But I think in most cases, in most living environments, I think we have something that works for most people.
Well, Daniel, first of all, pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for the time. Do you want to leave just a final message for music lovers, for audiophiles, for everyone?
I'd say just stay curious and investigate a lot of the great music that's out there, and also don't forget to go and see live music.
Yeah,
You know,
of course.
it's not easy for working musicians these days, and I think if you can support your local venues, support local artists or international artists, I think you help maintain that ecosystem that
Yeah,
really all audio depends on.
Of course.
true.
Where would we be without the artists? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be my message.
Vamos deixar que o algoritmo tome conta da música. Don't let the algorithm take over the music.
No, it's in my opinion, most of the algorithms lead to a place of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's people at the heart of things that keep things interesting.
Yeah.
So
Keeping curious.
that's it. Always.
Always asking questions, always wanting to know more, to being interested in something, whatever it is, will keep your mind working.
Definitely.
And working your mind doesn't make you go like stay just put on your seat. It makes you make a difference. For the small as it could be, it's a difference.
Yes.
And it will touch someone else.
Absolutely.
It will change something, just a little bit of a thing in the world. It's enough.
Exactly. And this is it. This is why we play, yodeling from the 1930s. So, if you're ever at a show where we're exhibiting, just come along. We always take requests as well, so be sure to bring some music along.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you both very much. Muito obrigado.